better or for worse, like they're either a good influence or a bad influence. I feel like you are one of my friends who's a really, really good influence on me in that the way that you view the world and the way that you value yourself. And I just wanted to start with that and also say, or ask you the question of, one thing that you influenced me on was salt baths. What is the origin of your interest in bathing?
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the compliment. Likewise, you are just one of the dearest people in my life to me. And I also am inspired by your thoughtfulness about the way you do things and your willingness to delve into something and change your mind, learn from it. But salt baths, yeah, we connect a lot around health stuff. We started really talking a lot about health.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of origins. One of them would be I grew up in a bath family.
Okay.
We all took baths. Like my mom will take a bath every single night.
Wow.
And she's done that for as long as I can remember. And then it became this kind of addendum where my dad will use like the after bath water and he'll take his bath.
Oh,
yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah.
That's such a family
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. It really is. It's like, I remember my dad telling me one time about how their family, when they would go to New Mexico, they didn't have running water. They had like a basin in the front of the house and they would pour like a little bowl.
Okay.
And everyone shared that bowl of water for their sponge bath of the day. And so you wanted to get up early.
Wow. So you got the first.
Yes, you got the fresh bowl. But he said like the kids never were able to get up early. The adults always got up at the crack of dawn. Probably because of like a profession of some sort of farming kind of thing. But
Would any kind of like flower petals or anything be put in the water? Would there be any fragrance? Or is this just clean, fresh water?
Yeah, I don't even know.
Even that might be questionable.
It was an action of poverty. It was an action of and also poverty and remoteness. Mm-hmm. It was so rural in the part of northern New Mexico that they lived in that there wasn't access. There just wasn't access. So I don't think that there was anything ritualistic about it.
Okay.
But that's been, my brother's big on baths. I love baths. So that's been a part of it. The other aspect is a couple years ago, I started working at a Russian Turkish bathhouse.
Yeah.
Which is one of the last, traditional Russian Turkish style bathhouses in America, and certainly where we're located in Colorado. Mm-hmm. There are not, I think maybe the nearest one is Chicago.
Okay.
I think that there is one in Dallas, maybe even two in Dallas, with a slightly different twist. I don't know if they're Russian Turkish.
Interesting.
But yeah, it was a bathhouse. I would go there as like a reward, like a prize to myself every once in a while because it was in Denver. So I was, traveling a bit and decided to go for my 30th birthday and went with a couple of friends. And I saw there's a big room. It's all tile. It's the wet room.
Okay.
Or sometimes they call it the bath area, but to me it was the wet room. And then you would have all these benches that people could lay on, and there were showers and a whirlpool, and you'd go down the hallway, and there'd be a steam room and then a dry sauna.
Okay.
And so I remember when I got there, there was a girl giving body scrubs, and there's a tile bed that comes out of the wall, and she was busy all day. Mm-hmm. Like I could see her little whiteboard where you'd sign up your name, and I was kind of doing the math in my head. I was like, oh, she's making some money, she's doing okay. And then it was a very physical job, which I've always really loved. At our time working together at the Lyric, it was also a super physical job, and I like that. I like kind of the action. And she was working naked, like she didn't have to wear any clothes to work, which was pretty cool. I thought.
Yeah. I know that's not
It's not for everyone.
That's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone. I realize that. But I was like, oh my God, she gets to be active and naked and make money. Like I don't know how much better it gets.
That's a very unique job.
Very unique.
Yeah.
Very unique. I mean, literally, there were 2 or 3 people doing what I did in the state.
Okay.
So I would often refer to myself after I became a scrubber as the best pound for pound scrubber in Colorado.
Hell yeah. Pride in your work.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Big time. So that day I'd scheduled a scrub and I said something to her. I said, you must love your job. And she said, yeah, I really like it. I've been coming here since I was young with my mom and I love it here. And just then the kitchen lady walked in to ask her a question, the scrub girl, and then said, oh, by the way, have you found a new scrub girl? And she said, no, I haven't. And I knew in that instant that it had been like handed to me.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So it was a very, it felt like divine, honestly. Like, you need to do this.
And this was on your 30th birthday?
It was slightly after my 30th birthday, but it was like at the crest of my 30th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So I told them I was interested in the job, and I came and interviewed, and they gave it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, their method is, we'll try it out.
Yeah.
And if people like your scrubs, you can stay. And people liked my scrubs enough. And I feel like I only got better and more confident because it is intimidating to be handling naked people because you want to honor the fact that they're being super vulnerable to you.
Absolutely.
And respect them and give them what you can. So it was quite the experience. And one of the aspects of the scrubs, you could either get a soap or a salt.
Okay.
And so that means if you got a salt scrub, and every scrubber would do it differently, but there would be a time where with the scratchy gloves that we would wear,
Mm-hmm.
We would add salt to your body, and then it would be deeper exfoliation.
Wow.
And so it would really cleanse you. And it's then at the end we would put more salt on you, and you'd go in the dry sauna and just kind of sweat because all of your lymphatic fluid
Mm-hmm.
was kind of jostled around. So it's a perfect time really to kind of make it move and pull it out and use the heat as that mechanism.
Okay.
To move it even further and process it through the lymph nodes.
I could see how that sensation of the scrubbing and the sweating could be so addictive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good. I mean, people who go to the bathhouse are super ritualistic.
Mm-hmm.
They have the same basket and the same locker, and they go to the same shower to take a shower, and they have the same routine. And there's a lot of power in that. People who've done that. I mean, the women who had been going to the bathhouse for like 30 or 40 years were like an ox. You couldn't take those girls down.
Wow.
They were like, they were just sturdy in their immune system, but I also think that there's a real mental capacity to what the heat gives you, that kind of stamina. And so I ended up became very passionate about sauna use.
Mm-hmm.
And so salt was just a big part of how we did everything there. So, and a lot of times I would scrub someone. It's kind of hard to describe, but I would almost hear when I would touch certain parts of their body that it needed more salt.
Okay.
So afterwards, when I would send them to the sauna, sometimes I would like add in things, and I became kind of like particular about the way I believe the salt should be applied. Like, I'm very big on putting salt on the back of your neck, armpits, anywhere where there's lymph nodes. So definitely like the chest and like groin,
Mm-hmm.
And then the back of the knees.
Oh, okay.
So anywhere that there are lymph nodes, just because even I think the pressing on and the kind of acknowledgement physically of that part of your body
Mm-hmm.
helps it be understood that like we want something from you. We're looking for something. We're paying attention to you.
Okay.
And we want you to reciprocate. We want you to process that lymph fluid. So.
And that's the basis of the chakra system as well, isn't it? The lymphatic system.
I don't know if it's lymphatic or not.
Okay.
I mean, that's an interesting question. I think that I would say maybe it could have been at some point. I definitely think that people sleep on the lymphatic system.
Okay.
And I think you and I have had conversations before about the use of the word toxins.
Oh, right.
And how that is like kind of a weird term
Mm-hmm.
because it's very nonspecific. I think though, from a more like actual, from a realistic perspective, the lymphatic system is probably the closest aligned to that idea of getting rid of toxins,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, detox has just become a marketing term now.
Right. Yeah.
And that is one of the toughest, I think, marketing lies that's peddled with sauna use is that sweating is getting toxins out of your body.
Yes.
But science, we know that is not how we release our toxins, and it's through our kidneys and our liver, and that very, very few toxins come out through our sweat.
Mm-hmm.
Yet that's how it's sold to people, and that's how people think of it. The number of conversations I've had in a sauna with people who say, "Oh, it's just good to sweat out all those toxins." That's not how it works.
Yeah, it's not. I think it's fascinating too because I ended up doing a lot of sauna coaching inadvertently when I'd go there because I knew the science around it. You know, I'd read about heat shock proteins and was super excited about just the efficacy and the fact that it feels good. I mean, I love it. And we have spigots of cold water in our sauna. So, you know, you would do the traditional throwing of the bucket on you a couple of times after you're done, or in my case, I had a routine where I would do it in between.
Okay.
So I would do 15 minutes and then I would put my whole body under the spigot, including my head, to really cool myself off and then go back. And I had a whole ritual, a sauna ritual and routine and that sort of thing. But I did a lot of coaching on the sauna because there's a lot, I think, as you said, of misnomers. People don't exactly understand. And one of the things I think that has, you know, it's difficult for me because there is this scientific thing that is absolutely true and occurring. And I also experience this other aspect of my work at the bathhouse because it is energetic, you know, which can't always be proven the way that a heat shock protein could be. But for me, something that I believe, and I have no like scientific evidence of this, but I think people use sauna, they think of it in the inverse. They think of it as I'm going into the sauna and I'm releasing all these things. But really, it's a magic box where you magnify things when it comes to your mind. So I think that when you go in and you're focused on what you're getting rid of, the focus on loss is what sticks. And instead, what is best, I believe, in the sauna is to focus what you want to put in. Because your body is already making space by moving that water around and sweating, moving the lymphatic system, and your cells are waking up. I think when it comes to the mental aspect, it's more powerful to think about what you want to put into yourself, what you want to be. And I can remember a specific instance where a woman, she talked to me in the sauna for a little bit. A lot of people would end up, you know, kind of chatting me up because they'd see me do my like insane routine and be like, what are you doing? You know? And she'd said that she had just had a breakup of like 6 or 7 years. A live-in significant other, and you know, she said she just wanted to sweat out the feeling. She wanted to just remove it from her. And I said, I totally respect that. I totally get like just wanting to escape that pain. And I said, but what I think might be helpful is like thinking instead about what you want to feel, what you want to be, what you want your life to look like. Because the sauna knows, you know, it's kind of like how we talked about how in times like the octagon can feel your hubris.
Oh, sure.
You know?
Yeah.
I think the sauna can feel your intentions. And it can work for you if you work with it, you know. But it's not, to me, it's not a place where I go to get rid of anything. It's a place where I feel I go to be rejuvenated and filled. And the mental participation in the sauna is one of the best aspects. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that challenge of knowing you can sit in a really hot room for, you know, 30 or 40 minutes or whatever you like to do. I know you're kind of like a 25, 30 guy.
Yeah. If I can reach, maybe 28 has been my max.
Sure.
And I guess that depends on how much water I have, how much ice was in that water.
Yeah.
But my experience has not been with a bucket of cold water being able to dump on me.
Sure.
I've got my, I always put a little bit of water in the bottle, put that in the freezer, and then I fill that with water. So I've got nice ice water that I'll occasionally pour on my head to give me a little bit more longevity. But once that water's gone, it's just sitting with the heat and seeing how long I can be in there for. But yeah, I'm just shy of 30 minutes, but like anywhere between 20 and 30 is it's perfect for me.
Yeah, that's
Do you
great.
have a temp that's like your sweet spot?
As long as it's over 175.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually sit in about 176, 178, depending on how I'm feeling, and I go at least 30 minutes.
Well, I like your focus on gain rather than loss, because I do think the mental aspect of it was something, certainly it came later for me, where all of a sudden I'm like, I'm not clear-headed through the day. I don't feel focused. And it's like, oh, I didn't get my sauna in today, where it became very much my 30-minute meditation each day. I go in there and sit. I know, and I would use mine at my local gym, and some people come in there with their headphones on and would stay in workout mode, where I found it was just focusing on my breathing. And I loved the conversations, like connections that I've made in the sauna have been beautiful connections. But what I really like to do is just kind of go internal, feel the heat. And you were the one who got me into bringing a little tub of salt in with me, and rubbing under the armpits, rubbing the chest and the back of the neck. And it's one of my favorite self-cares, and I haven't done it since the pandemic started.
Yeah.
So I miss it so badly. And honestly, hot baths have been the only source of heat shock protein. But how often are you using the sauna right now?
I'm lucky in that my parents have a sauna.
That's great.
So I have it in my calendar for 3 days a week, but I don't make it 3 days a week recently. For a good period of the pandemic, though, I was there at least 3 days a week doing 30 minutes. So I definitely feel kind of out of sorts on my routine. That's for sure.
I don't know how you feel about it, but if I had my own in a basement to go down to, I would do it at least 6 days a week.
Yeah.
But most likely I would spend some amount of time in that thing every day, probably every morning.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's I just feel so fresh after a sauna. Like I feel, if I'm properly hydrated, which was something I had to do, I had to learn how to pre-hydrate basically before I would go to work, because my work, the wet room can be like, 80 degrees and 100% humidity. So it can be really hot. So learning how to negotiate that and pre-hydrate was a big part of it. And I would always take 30 minutes for myself every time to go sit in the sauna, because I knew there was no amount of money that would be equal to the way it would make me feel. Like I would rather have the feeling and the health benefits of the sauna than, a couple extra bucks here and there. So, my sauna use has also radically decreased.
Yeah.
Just having been here in the sickness right now. So yeah, but before I would always spend at least 30 minutes, but my real, like, I love spending 40 is my favorite.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. But one of the things that I use that I think would probably be helpful for you, and you could even use a towel, because I know your gym, so you could just use an extra towel.
Yeah.
But I wear a banya hat.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I wore
You
a
were just
banya
teaching
hat.
me about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a Russian, Scandinavian, different parts of Europe. They use a felt wool hat. It looks like a little like mushroom dome. And it achieves a couple of things. One is it wicks away moisture, which I don't care about, but it does if you do. You know, it's like if you want a sauna before work and you have to like do your hair or whatever. So that's one benefit. Two is it does protect your hair, which I know is not a high priority for you.
Yeah. How's it look right now?
Yeah, I know.
Is it good?
But I'm pretty like nutso about the heat I'll let be on my hair, which is like almost none. So for me, it's really important to be able to preserve my hair that way.
I hadn't even thought. Of course, I hadn't thought of that. But yeah, that must be very damaging to
Yeah.
your hair, especially if you have a regular practice.
Right. It's like being inside of a blow dryer for an extended period of time. So blow drying your hair for, like 90 minutes a week. That's terrible.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not good for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big benefit. And then the other one is because it kind of hangs lower, it's going to keep the temperature around your head the same, consistent. The same way a hat would if you were cold outside and you put it on to keep the temperature around your head the same. It does the same in the sauna, and it allows the temperature that's around it to increase and your head to stay a little bit cooler, because when you tap out of the sauna, it's because your head's too hot. That's when you're like, oh my God, I'm going to die. It's because your head's too hot, not because like your body is overheating.
Okay.
And so, and that's that's like a cognitive dissonance that occurs in the saunas. Like you feel like you are hot, but reality is your head is hot and you still have like 60% in the tank. So the banya hat is just basically a tool to help you stay in the sauna longer and get those health benefits.
Yeah.
And it'd be funny because I'd wear it at the bathhouse and people are like, oh, your hat's so cute. I'm like, no, it's not cute. I mean, thank you. But also it serves a purpose. And I converted several people to banya hat use. And I would let people borrow mine and be like, go try it out. See if it helps you. See if you can stay in there longer, because being able to stay in there long enough is really the name of the game, you know? Even if you have a day where it's like kind of rough and you don't have a good mental space day, if you can stay in there 20 minutes, you've still gotten something out of it from a physical perspective. So I think it's a great tool. And for me, one of the aspects that I love about the banya hat is also kind of the ritual that it creates, because it's like it's like a garment for the temple, of the sauna, because I'd never wear a banya hat any other time, of course.
Right.
But it's one time I remember one of my coworkers, I was cleaning up the sauna at the end of the day, and she's like, it's like you're the temple keeper. And I said, yeah, I feel that way. I feel like this is a really sacred space. And I'm definitely the temple keeper and like defender of it against, assholes and people breaking the rules. So, so I definitely think that it's like a fun aspect to it, because it's not like you can wear anything into the sauna. I don't believe in wearing anything to the sauna, including jewelry.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you've brought me into the bathhouse culture of it, because my sauna use has been the gym culture.
Right. Different culture.
Yeah. It's people, it's still health and fitness oriented, but there's kind of a lack of the spirituality to it, or the connecting to a deeper part of yourself and what the heat exposes to you. Whereas I feel like when I'm in the sauna, I'm typically around, like, it is most common for people to be breaking the rules. They don't know of any rules, but it's just etiquette.
Right.
Isn't
etiquette.
there. I've had people come in with their cell phones and they just play music out loud.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's nothing sacred about the space.
Right.
So I'm so fascinated with going to a place that is dedicated to either sauna or bathing, and there is ritual around it. And this isn't just, I think my frustration with the whole detox conversation, they think that is the benefit. It's really just the misinformation that frustrates me. It's like, no, it's actually a different benefit. But does it really matter? I'd like to inform people, but they think it is a benefit, and it's just benefiting them in a different way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it kind of cuts both ways, because there's this aspect where maybe mentally, the placebo effect of believing it's detoxing you does to some degree release something in you, whatever it is. But I also think that there's a lot of power in the actual information around why sauna is good for you. And once a day, at least once a day, I would give what I called my sauna lecture, which was why you should do the sauna for at least 20 minutes, how to do it better. And I would give them tips, and I would always just try and like encourage it and tell them, this is relatively an easy thing to do. This is an easy way to be uncomfortable for an animal. We're still animals, and there are ways that other animals have to be really uncomfortable that we don't anymore. And this is a really simple way to be a little bit uncomfortable, but still totally safe. And be so helpful to your body and to your longevity. So I get where you're coming from, because it is this. I think what I hate about it is the shallowness that occurs when people are like, oh, it's detoxing, or when people come in and when people wear all their clothes in the sauna, something like that, which would never happen at the bathhouse. You're not allowed to wear clothes in there. You could wear a swimsuit, but almost nobody did.
Just towels, and
you get a little towel to sit on.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just not I feel like you can't relax to the degree that you can with clothes on. And I also think that there is this, like, gym culture is about maximizing their experience, so they see it as like, oh, I gotta, like, after I get my workout in, I'm gonna go sweat it, big time in the sauna and really get it. And it's not, I don't know what they're getting. I don't know what that is, but for the bathhouse culture is like the maximizing of nothingness, which is a totally different priority, like to do as little as possible in a moment.
Yeah, okay.
Versus try and get the most out of it. And I think in some ways that position of receptivity, of being willing to do nothing, allows you to receive more. So, and I've never been much of a gym person. I definitely prefer to like exercise at home. And I also, I don't know if I could handle the like someone coming in with a cell phone. That would drive me insane. I would have to like,
or with shoes on.
Yeah, shoes on is gross. That's so gross.
You have a guy come right off the basketball court, and he's fully dressed, and he goes and gets the final push of the workout is the sauna. And I also found it was the final push, but I'm doing this first thing in the morning, and it was the way for me to like center my day. And I really do think it was a lot of that is your influence, because when you were describing that mindset of I'm getting the maximum out of my experience at the gym, I'm going to push myself today, and then I'm really going to push myself in the sauna. That was my mindset until we started talking, and I was learning what this other culture was that you were working in. So I love that I bring it into that world of maximizing, yet it has a new purpose for me now.
That's great. I think there's a way to have, I think the best of both worlds is perfect. I think that to have a really rigorous physical experience and then allow yourself to sit in the sauna and receive everything that you've put yourself through in a positive way. That sounds like an incredible way to ritualize it or experience it. I think that a lot of people just don't do that. I think that there is I had a friend tell me something interesting. She said in a world that's all about achieving, doing nothing is the bravest thing you could do. Which was an interesting perspective, because I do think that there's just an emphasis on doing. There's an emphasis on achieving something, experiencing something, checking something off. And there's not a lot of space made for laying in a pool of water, or, laying on a tile bed and taking a nap. It's just not, it's not seen as like worthy of your time. And it's very foreign to me. It's like I am a luxuriator at heart. There's nothing hard about it for me. I'm like, cool, we're doing nothing. No, I got this.
Oh, interesting. I had it was a philosophical debate with a coworker years ago, and it all started with one of the messages on the tag of a yogi tea bag.
Okay.
And it said, happiness is the ultimate success. And I wasn't even arguing the point. I think I just read it out loud. And she felt like that was absolute hogwash. And she thought that you need to change the world to find success. You need to start a revolution. You need to dedicate your life to charity. And I just decided to, point, counterpoint, and we just kind of went back and forth. And I definitely felt like I agreed a little bit more with the yogi tea bag than with her, but I understood where she was coming from, and she was extremely idealistic, but then she qualified her point by saying that she's like, and by the way, I do have a philosophy degree. And I was like, I think I'm out. I think, yep, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
But I feel like I like your perspective on, when I started with that compliment, it's you really value yourself, and not that you're not giving to others. Like, you're extremely generous with your energy, but you don't do it so that you're at a deficit for yourself. And I think there's a lot of people who give it all away, and then they're diminished because they didn't give any of that love and attention to themselves.
Yeah, I think that that's really true. I mean, the yogi tea bag is interesting. I definitely think that there is a priority in Western culture of happiness, which is not a thing that is sustainable, and only exists in contrast to, sadness or loss or sorrow. So
that's a good point.
They need each other. It can't all be happiness.
You don't know happiness without sadness.
Right. Right. And I think that I would say maybe presence is success. To be present for whatever is so in the moment is really successful. And there is a resistance to even being present for nothingness or for idleness or, relaxing. I think it's hard for people to do that. I mean, there are many instances. I can remember one woman that I would give scrubs to. When she first came in, she was like super excited to get a scrub, and she was a terrible relaxer. She was bad at relaxing. Because at this point it is now a skill to be able to relax yourself. And so I scrubbed her for a period of months, and she got so much better over time at receiving the experience and not feeling like she had to do something or help. I can tell very quickly based on how people breathe, how far we'll get in our experience in a scrub together. And sometimes people are there and they're there for the ritual. Sometimes they're there and they want they literally want the exfoliation. Some people just love like the touch and the relaxation. But some people, we would align ourselves so strongly in our energy and our intention and our breath that we would both be high at the end. And so it is absolutely like a skill to relax, and it is societally reinforced to achieve or do. And I think what's sad about that is I think that our nature is that we're worthy. Like our nature is that we are a revolution just by being alive, because it's kind of a miracle that we're all here. Like we really lucked out.
Yeah.
Even though that there are terrible things, and even though it's been like a strange year with the pandemic and things like that, we're really lucky to be here, and we don't have to prove anything for it to be valuable and sacred. So I think it's interesting that she was a philosophy major, because I see a lot of like what I would call like a Protestant ethos in that perspective of like, yes, I'm saved by this grace, but I've got to do stuff, or I'm going to be a bad person.
That degree was news to me.
Yeah.
I really would have guessed she was a poli-sci major or something,
Right.
the way she was so invested in changing the world. But yeah, that was that conversation has stayed with me.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, she can change the world by being herself, by taking care of herself. And I think that that's the other thing I think about happiness is I really don't believe that anyone else can make me happy. And so that is an important part of thinking about the conversation of happiness is the highest form of success, or whatever the teabag said,
Right.
because it's putting the responsibility on me to allow that to happen, because nobody else and no other experience can allow that for me. And it's not like a guarantee, like there's no guarantee in that.
I couldn't agree more with the keeping that internal. I think there's such a mistake that people want and seek circumstantial happiness rather than setting an intention that this is where I want to be. Like, I want to be happy and pleasant. And I think entering the workforce years ago, it was, I want to be a pleasant person to work with. Like, I want to be that. So it's always been an intention walking through that door. I don't bring my bad mood or that rough morning I had into whatever space where it's like, hey, we're here to do something and we're doing it together, and I'm going to be intentionally pleasant to be around and to work with. And I'm not waiting for that lucky break, or for me to then, now I'm exuberant. It's like, no, you can turn it on. It's one of the one things you can choose to do is be happy. Yeah. And like the Buddhists say that pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. You're going to feel pain. It's that happy with the sad. It's like the sad's going to come. But is it going to make you suffer? Mm-hmm. There's the choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, it's been a process also of learning to try and have continuous gratitude for whatever is happening. And that's kind of why I think success is about being present to your experience, because then you can go in and out of those experiences of happiness and sadness and not feel wrong or less than or better than in any of those moments towards yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of personal power in owning that it's you. Like, yes, you're an interdependent entity in this web of human beings, but the revolution, I think, is really like an internal one that we need to have deep conversations with ourselves. And I think that was part of what I saw in the pandemic is when people stayed home and they had to sit with themselves and they were like, oh, I don't like me. I'm going to go freak out. And that happened for a lot of people, is they were not willing or were resistant to or didn't like what they saw in that shadow side of themselves. And that can be a painful experience. And if you're unaccustomed to delving in it, it can be just feeling like total foreign territory, super scary. But to me, that's a necessary part of being alive and being a person, is looking at all all sides of yourself, of myself, and having a conversation with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's definitely, for as much as we are dealing with the pandemic, there is like this endemic quality of non-self confrontation. That's like the real sickness to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely, having lost my job at the beginning of the pandemic and trying to, where's the path back? What does the future hold? I definitely had to do self-reflection that was, what am I doing? What have I been doing? Does this give me any joy? And really what I was finding was I have, it's overwhelming dedication or loyalty to whatever mission I attach myself to. And it's really not bringing me any, I think the fulfillment was just, I'm needed. Like that was the fulfillment. But I was like, I'm not working towards anything that is a goal of mine. Starting this podcast was very much a product of that self-reflection. Was, what can I do that I'll be passionate about, rather than how do I help somebody else fulfill their dreams and make money. And I'll just eke my way by as a incredibly loyal person to that, whatever that mission is. And I didn't, when I reflected on it and was totally honest, I was disappointed in myself that I wasn't chasing any of my own dreams or my goals. And I haven't in quite a few years. So that was a very important thing that came out of this. All of a sudden we're at home, nothing to do. And I'm sitting with myself trying to figure out the future. And it's like, this is an incredible opportunity. And, to change your lives if you have the ability to, if you have the stability to. And I was fortunate enough to be able to pivot and start doing something completely different that gets me up in the morning with pep in my step.
Yeah I love that you realigned your loyalty to yourself.
Yes. Instead
of letting it go before you give it to yourself, because it can be both, but I do think that it's you're the only one who lives your life, so you have to figure out what that means for you. So I think that it's a really important thing, and I think you're the type of person who has the outlook of trying to make the best of situations and look for like where's the nugget of growth that I can get out of this, even if it's difficult. And I think that that's something that not everyone has. So I think in some ways that, that's a way that it helps like steer you in a way that other people haven't learned how to do or haven't been exposed to those ideas. So it's definitely not an equal playing field, and people have super different experiences, especially now in the pandemic. But I definitely see that like reorientation for you, and that's awesome. So really exciting.
Coming back to that relaxation is a skill.
Yeah.
I feel like this all ties together in that, and I don't know if it's primarily Western culture that promotes this, but we have this need to achieve at all times, at all hours of the day, and we see the sand running out of the hourglass, and we're like, this is going to come to an end at some point, and some people never relax just because of that, because they know this ride is going to end. And
you're right.
They just redline it the entire time, and they never take a moment to maybe even not even rest on their laurels, but just enjoy maybe the little bit of comfort that they've given to themselves because of their hard work. It seems so out of balance that, like, no, I haven't worked hard enough. It's almost, right. I know this exists in, I'm sure in every industry. I saw it most prevalent in the kind of gypsy lifestyle of traveling film festival workers.
Right.
And there was a martyr mentality that if you are not suffering, you're not working hard enough. And the person who is getting the least amount of sleep is the highest stressed, that somehow that they are the best at what they do.
Right.
And I saw this year after year and formed a strong opposition to it, where, because you'd see people break down at critical moments. And it's like, well, you haven't cared for yourself in 10 days. Like, you've done nothing good for yourself. And it's all for the outward, like, it's for your ego. It's for people to see you. Oh my God, look at how hard she's working. I heard she only got 30 minutes of sleep last night.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
Well, then it's not going to be long before this goes off the rails.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
This is not good.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's fascinating. Sleep is a fascinating thing in our culture. Like the phrase, like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, when that it's almost like sleep is for losers kind of thing. And like, if you really want to be a successful person, which is to say a billionaire, that you have to not sleep all the time. And I'm really protective of my sleep. Sleep is one of the favorite things that I do. And I'm definitely a person who's always needed like a little bit more sleep than the average person. I do really well with like 9 hours, but I see none of that is time wasted, because my time awake, it's almost like it amplifies my abilities by getting that good sleep. So I think it's really sad that, I also think it's such a temporal perspective on yourself, because you're looking at it in like this little window of, oh, if I sacrifice myself for this period of time, then something great will occur. But also, you're not looking at the long-term consequences of continually not getting something like good sleep, which are horrible. It's really, really bad for you.
Isn't it a leading cause of early dementia or
all
Alzheimer's?
sorts,
Like chronic non-sleepers? I feel like there is evidence to show them developing these degenerative diseases,
right,
and memory loss and things like that.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I remember one of the sleep expert that was on Joe Rogan. One of the things that really stuck out to me,
Walker.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but he talked about like the necessity of dreaming for our brain, and how if we don't get enough dreaming in, we will start to dream during the day. We will start to have those dream-like experiences during the day. And I thought to myself, I wonder how many people have been diagnosed as mentally ill and put on medication when really like they needed like, good meals and sleep.
As like a product of insomnia or something.
Right. Yeah.
Because that dreaming starts to come out in their waking life, and people are like, this is not normal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're scaring us. And if your insomnia is chronic, what it does to you. I mean, I don't. Yeah, it's just I feel really bad for people who have a hard time sleeping, because I feel like it should be I just wish it were easier for them. I wish it were a little bit more accessible. I know my brother struggles sometimes to fall asleep, and I just don't relate also. I just don't relate to that. Like, there are sometimes I have a hard time falling asleep, but it's like truly one of my top skills is sleeping. And this year I actually, because I'm also kind of a nut about biomechanics and posture, I have avoided buying a mattress for years.
Oh yeah, you still sleep on the floor.
I don't sleep on the floor anymore. I bought a mattress for the first time this
did?
year.
Okay.
Yeah, and
But for so long, for
years. I haven't slept on a mattress since 2014. And so this year I finally invested in a mattress, and it was an investment. Very
not
expensive.
cheap. Yeah.
Especially because to buy a really high quality one that meets my standards of not having any bullshit chemical materials and off gassing and having the right firmness, which is really my issue, is it needs to be super firm. Yeah, I really went through the ringer trying to find a good mattress, and luckily I found a great local company.
Oh, good.
And invested in a king size bed for the first time ever. So, but
Good
it's
for you.
Yeah, it's a dream. Like sleeping on that mattress is a dream, and
Pun intended.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's so good. But I wish like everyone could have that good night's sleep that I get, on a bed like that. And and that people saw buying a mattress is one of the best investments you can make. Buying the right mattress is one of the best investments you can make for your health, because it adds up. It's that chronic. You can't that was one of the other things he had said, is you can't make it up on the weekends. You can't have a couple of bad nights sleep and then take a nap on the weekends or sleep in on the weekends. And it's not going to you're always going to have that deficit.
Yeah.
The debt doesn't go away for sleep.
It is unfortunate that people see sleep as laziness, and the misconception that it's you laying your head down on the pillow and then your brain shuts off.
Right.
Whereas you can see so much activity is happening and so much that we're processing. Now, I was struggling with sleep through many stages of the pandemic, certainly the early stages, and it was where I was working a job that was so social, and I was having hundreds of conversations with different people each week, and cold conversations, and it was fascinating. Just like my social muscle was very strong at that time, and then it just shut down, and I felt like I was having crazy active dreams. They were all extremely social, like where I was interacting with people from elementary school and college professors and people I had not thought about in so long. And I don't know if that was part of my brain that was saying we need to be social. I need to be interacting with people. And so it was happening at night while I was sleeping. That's my best guess, but
sure.
Yeah, I have no idea. But,
yeah. Well, and it's not like we look at a cow taking a nap and be like, that, what a lazy cow. I don't think that people think that animals are lazy for sleeping. I don't think anyone faults
get a job.
Yeah, yeah. Come on, fox. What do you think you're doing? Get out of your den and get to real work. And so it's funny that I don't think we would ever. I've never heard anyone say that to an animal.
No.
Look at a dog who's taking a nap and be like, that dog is really wasting his time.
And we think you're right. And we think of ourselves as so separate from that. We don't think of ourselves as animals.
Yeah. Yeah.
We absolutely are.
We
are biological creatures that are still working on the same systems that need recovery time. Rest is recovery. Whether it's because you got a killer workout or you did something very mentally challenging.
Right.
It's absolutely a way to reset and recover.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that you value it as much as you do. And unabashedly. I like that you can just you have a true direction, and what is right and true for you, and it just so happens to align with a lot of things that I believe as well. But you've absolutely demonstrated by example, no, this is how I live my life, and this is why. These are very deliberate choices that you're making, and I don't think many people make any deliberate choices. I think some people are just blown in the wind. Yeah. Whichever way the breeze is coming from, it's I guess we're going in this direction now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also one of something that I've observed about myself about the priorities, sauna and sleeping are great examples of this. But they're the emphasis on a small gain over time, accumulating over time. And because that's kind of what sauna is it's best if you can do it frequently for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And same with sleep, you know, having consistent sleep, having a consistent schedule for sleep and prioritizing it are things that are kind of long-term gains. And a lot of why I went to sleeping on the floor had to actually do with what were becoming injuries on my body. And it was unacceptable to deal with it, especially if I could solve it by sleeping on the floor, which would only long term impact the positivity of my alignment because of that load on your musculoskeletal system when you sleep. Because we think about, oh, I'm sitting in a chair, how's my posture? But we don't think, oh, I'm unconscious and sleeping.
Oh, right.
How's my posture? So thinking about alignment and posture when you spend a third of your life sleeping, to me, that's something we should be doing is, you know, your body is organizing itself in a certain way based on how you sleep. So when I started having nerve issues in my arms. Okay. And the ulnar nerve, which is the nerve that goes here on the ring and pinky finger, I was starting to have some numbness. Nothing too bad, but just noticing that there was like a little bit of chronic numbness happening during the day as I was moving around. And then one day, actually at the Lyric, I accidentally hit my hand in kind of a funny way, and my hand started to palsy. Wow. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I have a brain tumor or a nerve issue, and I need to figure it out. So I kind of backpedaled and thought about it, and it had to do with how I held myself at night, because I would go like this, and I would like curl in. Okay. But I would specifically agitate this nerve by stressing it, by having it like this. And so I wore, and then I did all sorts of research into posture during sleep, but I wore a brace to bed. Oh, wow. For a long time to train my arms to not curl.
Well, now that you say that, I can have problems when I do like the standard vampire. When I have my hands on my chest, I will get numbness and tingling, and I'll have to consciously be like, get them out of here. Like I'm not getting good circulation. Oh, wow. Yeah. I need to be conscious of my sleep posture.
Yeah. It's a whole other, not to, you know, I think some people may feel a little overwhelmed even by that. Like, oh my God, now I also have to think about my unconscious. One more thing. Yeah. The one more thing. And so for me, that doesn't fall into the category of like a one more thing. That's something I enjoy engaging with that issue. Whereas I can see how some people wouldn't, and it would be stressful to think about, oh my God, now I have to be worried about my unconscious posture. But I think for me, there was such a direct correlation between sleeping on the floor, sleeping on like a very thin mat, and kind of realigning myself, readjusting my muscles, and training myself to not curl up at night. I could feel the benefits because I didn't feel numb all the time. And it was very scary to have my hand move and not be in control of it. Like I could not tell my hand to stop moving.
That's terrifying.
It's terrifying. So it was motivating enough to solve the problem. And I think some problems are super motivating, and some problems aren't as motivating, and they're not equally distributed amongst people. So it's just kind of what you encounter and how much it impacts you, I think. So,
well, as we talked about the aversion to sleep, I want to tie it back into heat or sweat. I've known people who they have a complete aversion to sweating, and that they'll have a myriad of excuses of why. One common one I heard was that it would give them acne. If they sweat, they break out. And so, unfortunately, they were very unhealthy people because they were inactive, and they never got that release of toxins. No. They never had that experience. Have you encountered that with anybody at the bathhouse or other parts of your life that you've had to convince somebody and then they had positive benefits? Because as I encounter it, I'm like, I don't know your body,
Right.
but I'm pretty sure sweating is good for you.
Yeah.
Even you who is struggling with the acne, that sounds like a pore blockage, and it's a different issue than sweat makes me break out.
Yeah, I think something that one of the women at the bathhouse pointed out. She operated with some other services there, but she said that a lot of people who would come to the bathhouse came because they were ill in some capacity, chronic illnesses or recovering from an illness or variety of things. You know, I'd hear all sorts of different places that people were at with their health. But she said that, you know, to come here, you really do have to want to be well, because sweating is not reinforced, especially for women, because it's like, oh, it's unladylike to sweat. And I think that that's a difficult argument, just because it's what our bodies do. It's just
part of our system.
Yeah, and it's not like it's something you can control,
right?
Or like turn on and off, or interject, like blinking, like where you can control some of your blinking. Your body, if your body needs to sweat, it's gonna sweat. I met less people who were averse to sweating as they were, or maybe they didn't articulate that feeling particularly, but it was more like the heat is overwhelming. The heat is overwhelming me. It's too hot in here. For which I had like a slew of tips, but I didn't meet a lot of people who said specifically they didn't want to sweat, because I think that you have to kind of want to sweat to go to a bathhouse. You have to be you have to be willing to do that. And I also don't think, it's funny because I never really felt sweaty there.
Yeah.
I didn't feel, even in the sauna, that I was sweaty.
No.
I didn't perceive myself that way, which is, it's kind of its own, there's almost a distinction in some ways, because I think I can see how people will use that like pejoratively towards themselves, like, oh, I'm sweaty, you know? But I didn't ever perceive myself as sweaty, which is interesting.
Point. I feel sweaty when I'm in clothes.
Right.
When I'm wearing clothes, and when people are thinking like, oh, and you're pitting out your shirt or something like that, that's what I think of as being sweaty. When I'm in the sauna, I'm wet, and I'm very fortunate that I don't smell bad. Like I've never had bad BO.
Yeah.
I know other people struggle with that, and I think that can be related to diet and hereditary reasons. But I feel clean when I get out of there. When I get out of hot yoga and I am just drenched and there's a puddle, there's a lake around me, and that all came from my body, I don't rush home and like jump in the shower. And I think that's something people would find disgusting. Typically I take a shower after the sauna because I like a cold shower. Like it feels incredible with the vasodilation of your skin. Just having that cold water brings that temperature back down.
Right.
But I don't feel dirty. I don't feel dirty getting out. I actually feel like my skin's healthier.
Yeah, I feel certainly refreshed after sauna use, and I also have never felt dirty. And I think maybe even in a bathhouse environment, because the environment is based on like cleanliness, both internally and externally, maybe it feels less like you're sweaty. And I think it's just, everything's wet. You know, everything is wet, so it doesn't feel distinctive between sweat and water. And I honestly, like, I can't really ever recall a time where someone smelled really bad at the
Yeah.
bathhouse where I was like, oh, you stink.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember really ever feeling that way at all.
It's a shame that they're as rare as you say they are.
Yeah.
Like that they're kind of a dying breed.
Yeah.
Because I would love for this to be a cultural resurgence, or see a cultural resurgence where this just becomes the popular thing and it's highly social.
Yes.
And it's valued. It shows, I think, from an era when people valued their health and well-being in a different way. I know we have culture around wellness right now, but this seemed to be a very popular thing that was in all major cities across the world.
Yeah. I remember one of the ladies, she had been going there for, I think she'd been going there for about 50 years. And our bathhouse originated as a Jewish men's bathhouse in the Orthodox neighborhood of Denver. And she was Jewish, and her doctor was Jewish, and she had gone to him, and she had been very stressed out, and he prescribed her the bathhouse.
Wow.
Yeah. He was like, you need to go soak and relax. Which, if a doctor told me that today, I would never leave that doctor, because that's not a person I have ever encountered in the medical field, which is not to say that they don't exist, but I've never heard a doctor say, go relax for 3 hours a week at this bathhouse and treat yourself and really be with that. I've never heard that. I've heard medication. I've heard
here, fill this script and
I've heard a lot of that.
Take it twice daily.
Right. I've heard a lot of that, but I have not heard you are capable of healing yourself and relaxing yourself. You just have to practice, which goes back to it being a skill. And I think in some ways what ends up happening, similar to that space we had in the pandemic where nothing is going on and we're just stuck with ourselves in our head, it can be hard for people to like quiet themselves and calm themselves when they get into a space where they're even supposed to be relaxed. And so I think people will feel anxiety, like, shouldn't I be more relaxed right now? Shouldn't I feel, better? And it truly takes time. Like that one woman that I told you about, she made such progress in her skill to relax over time. I don't know if she felt it to the degree that I could.
Okay.
But I told her about it. I was like, I noticed you really feel more relaxed in your scrubs. Like, how are you doing? And had a conversation from there, because she was so twitchy. Twitchy when she first came.
Okay.
Almost like surprisingly so, like more so than most people. So I could really tell there was a lot going on. And it's not a one-stop shop, it's like learning to be with yourself is a lifelong experience. And I also think you're right about there being this like social culture that we're missing out on by having bathhouses, because I think about how, smaller communities who don't have, who have bathhouses based off of resource needs, because there isn't enough for everyone to have their own shower or whatever at home, or it's just a little bit more efficient that way, or it's culturally valued. I think that unity you have of being with people over a period of time, naked in a room together, it's unlike any other bonding experience that I've been a part of, at least at this experience in my life. And it's so valuable across generations, across time. It's so valuable. Like I joke a lot about how my conversations at the bathhouse were about life and death and laundry. Sometimes we were talking about really, really serious things, and women would go there in pain, physically or emotionally, often. So it's not that everyone who went there was well all the time, but it was the willingness to engage in that unwellness to hope for more wellness at some point. That was really admirable. And to see people like that when you're young, I think has got to be super valuable. I think so. The little girls who would go to the bathhouse you could just tell there was something different about them because they were used to seeing a variety of women naked, and they just had an internal power that they were going to keep with them, you know, a strength and a kind of self-value that is hard to get. That's hard to get just as a person. So I often wonder what would it be like to have a bathhouse, to introduce a bathhouse into a community and then track what the relationships amongst women would look like after 20 years, or what the relationships amongst men would be like after 20 years, or intergenerational friendship, what that would be like after 20 years. Because I think that the real capital is people and each other, and the most important part of our life is going to be our relationships, you know, the quality of our relationships. And I think that the bathhouse is a way that we can have better relationships with our bodies and ourselves and each other. And I certainly wish it for everyone. You know, I know that everyone isn't always ready to go to the bathhouse and take off their clothes. And I always say, like, we're for everyone, but not everyone is for us, because it's not us that have a problem with you or your body, you know. And that's another aspect of it, is it's I think a lot of people assume that they're going to go in there, people are going to be really judgmental, and that's just really not how it operates. Yeah, it's just not the culture of being judgmental. If you're loud, if you're rude, you know, if you're not following the rules, yeah, people are going to get pissed at you.
Yes,
but they're not going to get pissed at you because you're overweight,
right,
or you're underweight, or you have scars, or you've had a mastectomy. That's not how it operates there, because it is the temple, you know. And it's a hard mentality to come across, and it's hard to like transfer that. You have to be willing to be seen and accepted, and not everyone is. I think that's kind of the lie people will tell themselves of, oh, I couldn't go to the bathhouse, I couldn't do that, people would judge me. And it's like, no, you're judging you. Yeah. And you're unwilling to admit to yourself that you judge yourself as less than. Nobody in here is going to give a shit.
Right.
Nobody's going to give a shit. They've seen it all. Like, I have seen so much of real bodies. And it's a shame that we don't, because we see Instagram bodies, but real bodies are not what you expect them to be. Right. And women in particular, I think, can be really hard on themselves and each other.
There's one particular beauty type, and that's all that exists. Right.
If you don't have the, you know, at least at this point in time, like high curves, small waist, you know, like a big ass. But a lot of those people that we see on Instagram can't afford that. Literally, that's what it is they can buy it.
Yeah, I can buy this shape.
Yeah, they can buy what's popular. Most people can't. And you can't. That shouldn't be the priority. I think we'd really have a cultural shift if women saw other real women naked, because we don't. We usually don't.
Yeah. Well, maybe this is the revolution.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, this has been Bath Time with Maya Ortega. Maya, I loved this.
Yes.
Let's do this again. I really think we could just have a Bath Time segment with you.
Yeah.
And I know you know a lot about the history of bathing. Through the eons, and maybe that'd be a fun thing for us to cover next time.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Let's do this again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Maya.